Hello and welcome to Down and Dirty with Darci. I'm your host, Darci Smith, also known as Career Coach Darci. We are here to get down and dirty about careers, uncovering salaries, wild stories, backgrounds, and more from guests with some of the most eccentric professions each week. This podcast is presented by Onomy. Welcome back to Down and Dirty with Darci. I have your favorite person here with me, Raimee, but she is in the hot seat today because I am interviewing her all about how she got into the travel industry. I get a lot of DMs about how to work in travel without being a content creator or someone that works like on the airplane. So we're going to talk to you all about that, and we'll recap a little bit of my time in Scotland since you've also been to Scotland. So we'll give some good tips there, and we'll just kind of jump right in. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? It's the best part.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm nervous. I feel like I've obviously talked on this podcast before, but never about me.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so recap. I did work in the travel industry for about 5 years once I graduated from Michigan State. I got a corporate job, and then very quickly after that, I started working in travel and worked in travel up until the pandemic made that not possible. Mm-hmm. So I had a lot of experience working actually in the industry behind the scenes, not as a content creator. But after the pandemic, kind of made that industry not possible for me to work in anymore, I got into online education, which is why I'm where I am now with Onomy, working on this podcast.
Yeah.
But all that said, I mean, we can get into the nitty gritty of that story of trajectory, I guess. But yeah, I have a lot of tips for people who do want to work in travel, but don't necessarily want to be a content creator, because now I guess I am a travel content creator, but that comes from all my years of travel knowledge, working in the industry, working with other creators in the industry. So one day I was finally like, well, maybe I could do this too. And
makes sense.
Now, yeah.
I was a career coach and recruiter before I was a career coach Darci on
you have to build up the expertise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't jump into it thinking I was just going to become an influencer.
Right.
And that word is so weird to me, but
it's so weird. That's why I say creator. But even that now is
I personally don't resonate with the content creation part because I don't edit. I don't take very visual content. It's literally my face.
Yeah. No, that's actually
face.
A very good point. Mm-hmm. If I had it, if I had more time, I would love to be more artsy with everything I do, but it's just,
Yeah. Okay. So where did you go to college?
I went to Michigan State.
Okay.
I'm from Michigan.
And then after college, what was your first job out of college?
Yeah, so I got a advertising and marketing degree from Michigan State. I graduated in 3 years because I thought that I wanted to be in the real world as soon as possible. If I had any advice for anyone, don't do that. Stay in college.
Enjoy college as much as you can.
Yeah, I don't know. So I started working at an ad agency in Detroit, Michigan right after I graduated. And I worked in Google Ads. I was writing ad copy for Google Ads for clients. Yeah, I saw the flinch there because it was so boring.
That sounds terrible.
It was the worst. My clients were
did you get paid? I have to know.
Yeah. Okay. So my first offer letter, which I thought was amazing at the time, this was 2016, $35,000.
35. Wow.
Yeah. And I was living at home with my parents at the time. I was, I probably couldn't afford to live anywhere else, but I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm stacking money. I actually was able to save so much because I was living at home.
Yeah. And actually, I want to kind of go back to that because 35 isn't that bad by any means. But I think now we're so accustomed to the tech world and all these things. People come out of college getting 70, 80 grand.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
It's wild. But back then, I guess it was very normal. It was okay, your first job, that's
especially
what you
in
get.
the ads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I worked at that job. I obviously hated it. It was so boring and it was very corporate. The office was freezing cold and I just freaking hated it. I was staring out at parking lots every day. And I just remember thinking this is it? This can't be it.
This is the work that everyone talks about.
This cannot be it. And I was so upset because I left college early. All my friends were still partying and I was at this desk job. And that's kind of what prompted me to be I gotta get into remote work, even though that wasn't really a thing back then. But I was just I need to travel, but I can't travel because I have no money. So how can I work and travel at the same time? And that kind of led to everything else. So
yeah. So then how long did you stay there?
I stayed there for about 2 years.
Okay. So that's actually a very long time for your first job.
Yeah. I stayed there it was a year and 9 months. So I really had the intention of saving money while I was there because I knew I was living at home. I could stack my cash and I wanted to maybe quit my job and travel the world. So I was planning to save like $20,000 and do the whole year around the world thing. And I am just too nervous of a person. I would need some form of stability. So I did save up that money, but I couldn't pull the trigger on just not having any kind of income. So that's what led me to finding jobs in the travel industry so I could do both.
Nice. Okay. So then you quit that job. What happened after that?
So while I was working that job, actually, I was kind of like playing the field a little bit, pulling, triggers wherever I could to get into freelance work for travel companies and for other travel bloggers. So my way in was really through travel bloggers at the time. There weren't really obviously there weren't TikTokers, it was very much blogs. So I reached out to every travel blogger I knew of and kind of pitched myself like, hey, I work in marketing. I could help you do whatever you want.
This is amazing. So did you just cold email them from their contact on their blog?
Yes. Yeah. So from their contact on their blog, Instagram was still a thing. So a lot of the people I found, the blonde abroad, she was like my idol at the time. I still love her. I'm friends with her now, which is cool.
Yeah.
But her and Nomadic Matt were the ones I reached out to and ended up working for.
Wow.
But it was after multiple follow-ups. And I tell people this because they ask all the time, like, how did I get a job with Nomadic Matt? I messaged him so many times, never got a response. And then I went to a bunch of events. So this is where networking comes into a play.
Oh my gosh. I love this hustle so much.
Oh my God. I was really just doing everything. And I was still working the job at the time, but there was this big travel conference in New York, the New York Times travel show. And I had to lie and say I was sick for work so I could go. And I booked my ticket and I went to New York and I was like, I'm going to meet all of the travel bloggers and just pitch myself. I made business cards for myself and said I was a social media manager, even though I wasn't doing that, but I knew I could. So I just gave it to everyone there. That's where I met Matt for the first time. And essentially was just hire me, I'll do whatever. And he's like, well, we do kind of need someone to lead our Pinterest. Do you have experience doing that? And I was like, yeah. Did not have experience doing that.
You're like, Google, how do you run a Pinterest?
But actually, and I took an online course. I'm like, okay, I could do this.
Oh my God,
and so I started
you.
for him part-time while I was working, doing Pinterest marketing, learned all about that. And eventually he was like, okay, you can work full-time. And that's when I was like, okay, I can quit this job now.
That's amazing. So, but working for someone like that, I have a million questions because one, did you have benefits? Was it because it's not a proper
right?
corporate...
No. Okay. Good question. At first I did not have benefits and I was 23, 22 at the time. So I was like, whatever. I had a full-time income. He was paying me $40,000, which was a little bit more than I was making at my corporate job. And again, it was completely remote. So that was my goal. I was like, I need to get out of the office. $40,000. I did eventually have health insurance with him because he had multiple employees and everyone was kind of like, okay, we need legit benefits now. And the best part was that he gave everyone 4 weeks required paid vacation.
Oh my gosh.
Dream.
Yeah. Perks of working for a travel company.
Yeah, literally. And a lot of travel companies, the bigger ones, do offer stuff like that or paid trips that you can go on through it's so nice.
There's a lot of perks. I know some people that work for cruise lines.
Yeah.
And I've heard those are pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My friend works for TripAdvisor and they get to go on, they pick wherever they want to go and it's fully paid for. I'm like, oh,
whoa,
amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I would say, I don't know this for a fact, but I would say you're probably giving up more pay or something. Usually with these jobs, like people that work in sports, things like that, you're giving something up to have kind of that cool, I get to interview LeBron James. I'm just making up something.
No, that's true. Yeah. That's so true.
But I feel like in the travel world, it was so worth it for you. And I mean, in your case, you actually made more than your other job. So
right. And I mean, I did feel like, I was watching a lot of my friends at the time, moving up in corporate finance or consulting, and they were making a lot of money living in Chicago and New York. And I was making, still not a lot of money, but I was like, okay, I'm going to go live in Paris for 3 months and work there.
Right.
And I was able to do that. So there was a little bit of a sacrifice because I knew I could go out there and make more money, maybe at a tech company or something. But at the time, that's just, priorities.
So what did that job lead to? What were you actually doing for Nomadic Matt? And for people who don't know, what is his company?
Yes. So
also, sorry, can I pause? The fact that he didn't take the liberty and make himself nomadic, just that word, because Matt,
He really missed an
Okay,
opportunity
but
there.
you know what he was about to be called? He was about to make his blog, Matt Does the World.
Oh, well, that's
Which
also...
also kind of true.
Yeah.
In some ways. Edit that out.
You're the editor.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
I am the editor. Okay, yeah. Okay. So Matt was like one of the OG travel bloggers. He started his blog in 2008 before anyone even knew what a blog was. And so he got in really early. He's a great writer, and he was just creating these really high SEO value blogs about literally everywhere in the world that he was traveling. So he became one of the top ranked blogs on Google. So he was able to create a massive multi-million-dollar business from his blog. But he also expanded into online courses and conferences that he ran. And so by the time I got hired, I wasn't hired just to do his blog, because obviously like that's his personality. He ran a lot of the personal social stuff, but I was more so doing a lot of the content marketing and social media marketing for his other ventures. Like he had this superstar blogging course where he taught other people how to be bloggers. That was huge for a while. And then TravelCon was our event that we ran for years. And so I was doing a lot of the marketing for that and him a little bit, but mostly for the other like business ventures that he had in the travel space.
Wow. That's a lot. How long were you there?
I was there for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 4, 5, almost 5 years.
And you were working all over the globe because
I could. And I didn't have a home base. So obviously, I wasn't paying rent anywhere else. So I felt like, maybe this isn't true because I was traveling a lot, my excuse to myself was, this is cheaper than it would be to live in LA, which it kind of was. But also, I was paying for flights and it probably evened out.
Right. Yeah. Did you, this is like kind of into the weeds, but tax-wise, did that have any implications? Because you didn't have a home base that you were paying taxes in for income?
Yes. So I made my home address my like parents' home address. Okay. So I was still paying Michigan taxes. And I never, there's so many laws about like visas you have to get to work in different places. So I would go to Europe for the 90 days because you can only be there, and then come back, work in New York for a little bit if I wanted to, or stay with a friend, So I would kind of like get around it. But my home base was technically Michigan up until 2020 when I moved to LA.
Got it. And then what sparked the move to LA?
Wow.
We're going through the whole gamut here.
I know. Well, I was getting to a point with Matt where his business didn't have a lot of potential for growth. Like there was a lot going on, but it was never going to scale in the way that I wanted my career to scale.
Right.
And so I moved to LA right before the pandemic, obviously not knowing that was about to happen. But my idea was like, and I had talked to Matt about this, like, hey, I kind of eventually want to phase out. Like I'm trying to look for what else I want to do. So I moved to LA because of the opportunities and the sun. And, I was just like, what else can I do in the media space? Where should I be for that? And it was New York or LA, and I just liked the lifestyle here better. Yeah. But yeah, Matt knew I was like planning to kind of like quit, but he was such a great boss and so understanding about it. He was like, yeah, I want to help you. Like, I'll help you network out there, whatever. And then the pandemic happened and he's like, need. Right.
Bosses like this that understand.
He's great.
Growth. And if they can't provide what you're looking for,
they know when it's time to say, you know what? Yeah, you should pursue more.
Right.
And that's kind of what happened. And then the pandemic made it like, it hurried me up because I was so comfortable in that job. It was amazing. I got to like take photographs around the world and make a decent living off of it. It was so great.
Yeah.
But the pandemic, he lost a ton of money during that because no one was visiting travel blogs anymore because no one could travel. So it kind of forced me out. But it all worked out.
Yeah. And then we kind of talked about this one time on the podcast, but for people that don't know, you got your job at Onomy now that you have by also cold emailing them, right?
Yeah.
So how did you go about that? How did you even find Onomy?
Okay, so I did find there was a job posting on LinkedIn, and I think it was for a content marketing manager, which was in the realm of what I had been doing. But instead of applying via LinkedIn, which I feel like no one should ever do, I just emailed Sam, one of the CEO's co-founders. I emailed him directly, and I remember the subject of my email was This was so ballsy, but so before, let me backtrack a second, because after Matt, when he had to lay me off because of the pandemic, I didn't go to Onomy right away. I had a job in between that I just will not name because it was a weird vibe. But I worked there for a year, and I was so desperate to get out that I was just putting myself out there. It was not. It was in online education.
Okay.
But it was also remote. I mean, everyone was remote, but it was in online education. And so I was so desperate to get out of there that I cold emailed co-founder of Onomy and said, "Hi, I'm the content marketing manager you've been looking for," with like a little dancing emoji.
No.
And I was just like, I need to be noticed because this job, it sounded super cool. I was like, oh my gosh, education around the things we actually need to know. This sounds like a cool company. So I cold emailed them. I maybe I could insert the email because it was really short and concise. And
or put it in the show notes for people who...
I'll link it in the show notes if you want to use
people
my
who are watching
template.
on YouTube. We are on YouTube.
Yes.
Just a heads up.
Like, subscribe, follow, comment. But I did that. And then, I had multiple interviews with them. And I remember at the time being like, I don't know, like, is this the right move? And it all, now obviously I'm so grateful. Yeah.
You've been here how long?
2 years next month.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Did you negotiate your offer when you got it, when you first started?
Okay. So they asked me, this annoyed me actually, guys. They were like, they're going to listen to this. No, they were like, they asked me what I wanted my salary range to be.
Okay.
And I didn't have the knowledge of Darci at the time because you should never give your range first, right?
Yeah.
You should ask them.
I will say it depends, but
Okay.
yes, you try to ask them for sure.
Right. I should have asked them like, oh, well, what's your range? So
Right.
I gave a range of 70 to 90K, which also I feel like that's too big of a range to give. Right?
Yeah.
I
Well,
think, no,
again,
I gave 75 to 90K as my range. I was like, I want to be here.
The goal here is that whatever you really want, you put that at the bottom. So if you were like, okay, I will and really want 75.
Yeah.
So let's do 75 to 90. Because anytime you give them a range,
They're going to go with the lower, which is what they did.
Or they're going to go like right in the middle.
Yeah.
So they're never going to be like, yep, 90.
Right.
I mean, I've seen it once or twice, which
never.
is really cool. Actually, sorry, side note. One person I worked with, she said she gave them a range. I think it was something like that, 70 to 80. And they were like, oh, it actually pays 100. So we're just going to give you 100.
Amazing.
She's like, I could have shot myself in the foot so
I've
easily.
literally had that with brands now that I'm a content creator, but I've had with brands, they'll ask me my rate and I'm like, oh, like $800. And they're like, oh, well, our budget's $2,000. Like, we're willing to pay you that. I'm like, but they offer it. I'm like, wow, that's actually fucking
probably
dope.
Got more though.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, shit.
Dang it. Okay, back to you.
Back to
So you said to them 75 to 90. They came back and said, perfect, we'll pay you 75.
Perfect, we'll pay you 70.
70. Okay.
So they went below my range.
Oh,
which,
guys,
whatever. I mean, it's a startup, so I was like, okay,
right.
fine.
And they only have certain budgets, so
right.
Yeah.
Like I totally got that, and it was a pay increase from 60 grand, which I was making before at the other online education job.
Right.
After Matt. So I was like, okay, great, 10K more, cool. And then after my year at Onomy, I got another raise. So
nice. Do they, since they're a startup, do they have things like profit sharing or you can buy into stocks or different things that?
I do have equity too.
Okay.
Don't understand how much I have.
Oh, no.
Don't
Raimee,
know how much it's worth.
Raimee, no, guys, anyone listen, stop. If you're listening.
I don't get it. I looked at it and I'm like, okay, 40 equity points. What does that mean?
This is why you hire, literally, not me necessarily, but
someone
for if you're going through negotiations or you're looking at an offer, this would be such a great time. The same way you would contact a lawyer if someone sued you or you don't understand stuff. This is important, right? So you would contact someone, just pay them for their time. Mm-hmm. All you're doing is paying for an hour of their time to break down the offer letter and make sure you understand it.
Oh, okay. Would that be someone like you though?
Yeah.
You would pay, hey, whatever your consulting fee is.
Correct. Exactly.
Oh.
And just say, hey,
I
I don't understand the RSUs here. I don't understand equity. I don't understand this particular thing. And then ask the person, can you help with this? And sometimes they can, sometimes they can't, right? But
Right.
they can lend you to somebody or lead you to
Yeah.
somebody that can. And it's just like paying, anyone for advice on something.
Yeah.
And it's just knowledge, because it's
Right.
not like it probably would have changed your.
Right.
But maybe.
True. I mean, to this day, I'm like floating. Woo! What does this mean? I
You're
don't
like,
know.
maybe if they go public, things will happen.
Well, that's
Is that what your thought
exactly.
process is?
Then I'll figure it out. Because does equity even mean anything if they don't get bought out or go public? No.
Yeah, not
So
really.
Who fucking
but
cares?
I mean,
it doesn't. Like, I mean, I guess you could negotiate for more if it was like, something in Silicon Valley that was like
well, that's where
destined
the
for an IPO. I
right, but
been like,
also that's where the leverage is, though. So
True.
the leverage is they're going to come to you and say, "Hey, we don't have a high budget. We are a startup, so we have to pay you less than possibly what another company could pay you."
so give me more equity.
Totally understand that. And then you say, "Yeah, equity doesn't really mean that much, right? Unless it does."
Right.
So like that's your leverage.
Would
is
rather
let's bump
have it.
that up, and you never know.
No, that's true. One day when we are the Barstool Sports of Education,
Exactly.
I'm gonna be rich.
Right.
Because, well, maybe not, because mine might not mean
'Cause
anything.
you're like, I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Well, there's what was the company is it Jewel that got bought out by Altria?
I know, if they get bought out, you get a stack, right?
They all of their employees, I mean, even people in like admin were
Yeah.
like over $1 million. Like totally, yeah. It
Guys.
was a lot of money. So yeah, just maybe look at it.
Yeah, Darcy, I'm gonna send it to you after this.
Okay, so I want to talk about, people probably ask you in your DMs all the time, but I want to talk about tangible travel advice everyone can use. And we're not talking like content creators going to the nicest places, whatever.
Right, no.
I want to get down to like the real stuff. What is the cheapest way to travel? If someone comes to you right now and is like, I want to go to Scotland, which we can talk about my Scotland
Yeah.
trip. I want to go to Scotland, or I want to go to Europe. I don't want to travel. I want to see something, but I don't have a ton of funds. What is the best way to do that?
Okay, so this is a popular misconception about me personally as a travel content creator. People think I do stuff for free. I've never once stayed at a hotel for free. I've never gotten a comped flight. So I do it all myself, which is why I am trying to get the cheapest deal.
Yeah,
So,
and you travel pretty inexpensively.
Yeah, I travel super inexpensively because I'm not balling on a budget yet.
Yet.
So let's use Europe as an example. This tip is annoying, and I say it all the time, but like if you want to go to Europe and you want to do it the cheapest way possible without volunteering or staying in hostels,
Right.
like if you don't want to be like backpacking like a 22-year-old like I did, the way that you're going to go there for the cheapest price is not going in summer, quite frankly. Like you should go
Off seasons.
in the spring or the fall or even winter. I mean, that is when you're going to be able to go for the cheapest price flight-wise, because that's usually the biggest expense next to accommodation, which I'll talk about too. But one, like, I guess specific tactic, which I've noticed and I've done before is, okay, so for Thanksgiving, domestic flight prices are absolutely insane because everyone's trying to travel domestically to get home for American Thanksgiving. If you go abroad during American Thanksgiving, there are such great deals. I once flew to Amsterdam for literally $300 round trip.
Wow.
Which obviously was cheaper than going home for Thanksgiving. So, you could do one Thanksgiving without your family.
Yeah,
If you
I
want to
think
go to
so.
Europe. That's the cheapest exact date I could give you to like go abroad. I feel like any American holiday.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, aside from that, like being flexible with when you're going and where you're going. I talk about this a lot. You've probably seen me talk about this, but just like browsing Google Flights and Skyscanner and being open-minded about, okay, maybe I do want to go to London, but there's actually a cheaper flight into Glasgow, Scotland, where you just went. So maybe I could fly into Glasgow and then take another little flight from there to get to London and make
cheaper
it
flights.
Yeah, take a cheaper flight from there, because once you're there, it's very cheap to get around Europe, especially. So I like to just tell people to be open-minded to that and think about like the positioning flight also. So when I was traveling from Detroit, that was not the cheapest place to fly out of because there's no direct flight from Detroit to, wherever. So I would fly Detroit to New York to Paris, because that flight from Detroit to New York was $150, and then from New York to Paris was usually like $300, $400. making it way cheaper than just doing the Detroit
like
flight.
$1,000 from Detroit. Yeah.
Exactly. So positioning flights is a great way. It's really just like being thrifty and hacky about it and not like going for the easiest option.
Right.
So that's flights. I mean, if you really want to travel dirt cheap, you know, volunteer. World Packers is a great organization that can help you.
World Packers, like you can just go to World Packers online.
Worldpackers.com.org, something like that. But they'll hook you up with volunteer opportunities all around the world. Anywhere you want to go. You can stay in like a hostel or a hotel. You have to work in exchange for a place to stay. But, you know, if you want to travel on the real cheap, it's a great way to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then I think I might have asked you this before, but what was the best place you've ever traveled?
Oh,
is that really hard?
Yeah, it is.
Pick one.
I know it is.
You have to pick one city.
Oh, one city?
Not even country. One city.
Okay. Gosh, I always feel so basic. I love Paris. And this is the story though. I hated Paris when I first visited.
Yeah.
Hated it. And I was like, I will never return. Absolutely, you know, was appalled by the place. I don't know why. But then I had to go back for a work thing when I was working with Matt. And I had to stay there for like 3 weeks for this work thing. And after really getting to know the city, I fell in love with it. And now it's like, I want to go back all the time.
Yeah. I loved Paris too. I didn't think I would. And it was one of my favorite places. And
it's
so I think it surprises a lot of people.
Yeah. And if you go into it having like the expectation of City of Lights, the most romantic place in the world, which I think when I first went there is what I thought. And then you get there and you're like, oh, it's kind of just like a normal city.
Right.
But then you get to know the intricacies and it's very cool.
No,
but my favorite place is Iceland. Just because beauty-wise, like I like the main city there too, but it's just so visually amazing and unlike anywhere I've ever been.
Yeah.
It is freaking expensive, but worth it.
I definitely want to check it out. I was looking at a map when I was flying. I was like, where is everything? Because I'm not great with geography.
Yeah, it's
and I was
fun
like,
to
I'm actually so close when I was in Scotland. Yeah. But speaking of Scotland, people asked me like, what was your highlights and things like that?
I want to know.
So I definitely want to talk a little bit about it. The thing is what I've noticed about myself is and probably isn't a surprise to people, I'm a very social person.
Yeah.
So when Ryan and I were like, oh, we need to do a little bit of both, like have some balance and go out to the bars, hang out with people, be in big cities. But we also need to do maybe 3 or 4 days in smaller places that are just gorgeous and you can do hikes and train rides and things like that. We were miserable.
Really? You need to be around people.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Both of us. And I told him, I hope he doesn't listen to this because I was playing the card of like, I was telling him, I'm like, you need to buck up and we're having so much fun. We're in Scotland.
Yeah.
We're so lucky to be here.
Yeah.
And he was kind of being a little like this is so boring. We should like leave and just go to a different city.
Yeah.
When we already had paid for a hotel and everything, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, we need to stay and enjoy this. It's not that bad. So I'm telling him like, I'm loving it. I'm having so much fun.
It's great. It's great. Your eyes twitching.
Right?
Like, I don't need human interaction.
He knows I was
than you.
lying totally. But honestly, we started in Edinburgh, which was, it's really hard to say, but between Edinburgh and Glasgow, I am like a little bit higher on the Edinburgh scale.
Ah, okay.
Which I didn't think.
Surprising.
I know.
But, I love Edinburgh.
I thought I was going to like Glasgow more.
Yeah.
Because Glasgow's more that eclectic and artsy vibe and younger people and more people. And Edinburgh's like, they say over there, they're more posh and kind of buttoned up and that type of thing. But I found everyone was just super nice and chill.
I don't think it's buttoned up. I mean, they were so beautiful, that city too.
Oh, it's so pretty everywhere you walk. So we started there. So that was like kicking it off like really big, right? And we have like a place where we can see the castle and things like that. We just met so many amazing people. We had so much fun. Like just the social environment was great. So from there we go up to Speyside, which is like the Highlands, so north. Right. And we, for some reason, we're like, oh, let's book 3 nights there. And that was
it's too much.
2 nights too many.
Yeah.
Because once you see the gorgeousness, you're like, checked it off the
I need
box.
to like have I need more energy.
Yes. Yeah. So luckily we met some cool people at our hotel. And so they were Canadians that were from Scotland but live in Canada now.
Cool.
So we met some friends, so that made it a little bit better. But we didn't really have a solid plan. And I think that's a big tip too, is don't over plan things, but definitely have some things that you know you're going to do.
Especially because you don't know, like you said, you don't kind of know how you're going to feel in the moment. Things sometimes sound like a good idea.
Right.
And then you get there and you're like, oh, actually, I'm in the mood for more right now. And like, having that flexibility, it's hard with booking hotels and stuff. Like, you probably can't get a refund. And booking things last minute, you know, you could try like Hotel Tonight, or I don't know what the equivalent is in Europe, but to get some last minute deals and kind of wing it. I did that when I was backpacking because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel. So like, I'll just book things like a day ahead of time. And it was stressful though. I made it work, but it was stressful. So
totally. And we definitely planned out like the hotels. And I am going to give a shout out to a company that decided not to work with me, but I think because they're a small company, I'm still going to give them a shout out because I do really think that it's helpful. So for anyone listening, we can also put this in the show notes because I think I have a referral link that will give like people money or whatnot, but it's really cool. So it's called Safara, I think is how you pronounce it. Safara.
Oh, I've heard of this.
I loved it. Basically, they are a third party. They go through Expedia. So like when you get to the hotel, they'll be like, oh, you booked through Expedia. In your head, you're like, well, no, I booked through Safara. But So basically what they do is every time you book, you get money back. So by like when you have a trip, it's perfect because you're booking so many places that you're kind of putting the money back into it. So there was like, I think we ended up with $100, maybe $200 of like kind of getting the money back.
You could use that for another booking.
For the next booking. Yeah. So it kind of just like rolled over, which was great. And then I will say it was pretty cool because when we got there, we got an email from Safari like, oh, because you booked through us, like here's a coupon code for an Uber on us or something, right?
That's nice. See, that's the perk of using. So I'm like torn with third party sites because that is a major perk. You do oftentimes get money back and, you know, get points and other perks like that. But sometimes if anything goes wrong with your trip, they are like, well, sorry. Like you just have to read their policy. But like, you know, sometimes it can help you save a ton though. Like flights on Expedia are usually way cheaper, but if anything happens to the flight, they ain't going to be helping you. So
No. It's third parties are, it kind of depends on which way you want to go with it. But yeah, so shout out to Safari because it was great.
That's awesome.
And then so once we left there, we went over to the Harry Potter train, which I know
I know like, I was messaging you so like, oh my God.
About. And I'm like, so cool. I don't know anything about Harry Potter.
I know, you're like, I don't even read fantasy.
I was so confused. Everyone,
was everyone like dressed up?
Losing their minds, and they all had their phones out.
Were they in robes and wands?
Like some of them, not all of them. But they had their phones out when the train was coming, and I'm like, oh, am I supposed to be filming this? Like, is this a cool train? And then, because I thought it was just a Harry Potter theme. I didn't realize it was the actual train.
The one in the movie.
And that was the bridge that they
go across. Oh my God.
So
I'm getting chills
like
thinking
learned
about
it as I was doing it. But it was very pretty.
It's cool.
But the whole time Ryan are like, okay, like we're on a train. Okay. Now what?
Well, you know what's fun though? I love like watching movies that take place in the place I traveled after I went. I like doing it before and after because like you might watch it now and be like, at least just zoom to that part. But it's like, it's fun.
Yeah. Now you're just trying to get me to watch Harry Potter.
I know. Watch it, Darci.
And then we ended in Glasgow, which was amazing because if anyone goes to Scotland, I'm just going to give 2 places that you should go. So if you go to Edinburgh, I really recommend this place called Never Really Here. Ooh. It's a speakeasy, and we almost didn't go because we literally couldn't find it. So I'm going to explain it.
Okay, I love that.
But it's like a black door, and it's almost like looks like it's written in, you know, on a car when it has dust and you write it like that. That's what it looks like, and it says like Never Really Here, but you can't really tell. Ooh. And it's like NRH and things like that.
Did you take a photo of it?
I don't think I did. I was trying to be like cool.
Yeah. You're not like
yeah. And then there's like this little lantern light on top, and there's obviously no name. You can't really tell it's like what it is. No lights are on. Wow. So there's a little light on top, and what happens is when that light is off, it means they're full. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're not open.
Right.
It's just a really tiny spot. And then when the light's on, it's not open, so you can't actually like there's a padlock. Oh. So it looks like it's fully closed.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do I do? And there's like a little knocker, like a lion head knocker.
Oh my
so you
God,
knock on that. There's one person working in the entire bar. It's just like a small little bar, like whatever. And that person walks the door, lets you in, and then you go in, and then there's no menu. So what you do is you tell the bartender exactly what you like.
I love places like that. Yeah. And they make it for you. You're like, I want something fruity, sweet, and like blah, blah. And tangy.
And I asked her, I'm like, is this not the most annoying thing ever? And she's like, no, I love it. Like I get to like pick and choose your palette, whatever. And I don't know what she made, but it was amazing.
So good. Oh, I love places like that.
We tried to go back twice and they were full each time. So
how did you find it originally? A blog or something?
A blog. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
This girl, we found a few places from one specific blog.
Okay.
And yeah, it was amazing. So that one, and then in Glasgow, there's 2 places I would recommend. If you can, one thing that Ryan and I like to do is see shows or like music where we're at, because the environment.
You saw Harry Styles.
Yeah, I did see Harry Styles. It was so good. And we saw Pete and Diesel, which was a local Scotland band.
Fun.
Yeah, and at Barrowlands. So anyone, if you can go to Barrowlands, it's a great venue, all standing rooms. So you just get like so much energy.
Yeah, so much better.
I've never seen this, but you know when you go to a country concert or concerts in general, it's always like the girls on like the guy's shoulders.
Yeah.
Looking out in the crowd, there was probably 10 to 15 men in the air on other
other's?
men. Yes. Just going crazy.
So
it was so cute.
I love
Ryan literally
that.
tapped me. He's like, you never see that in America.
No, because
yeah, a lot of reasons. But no, I was like, this is
That's
freaking
so
awesome.
fun.
And so I was just like yelling, screaming, whatever. And then the other thing, I'm obviously a big speakeasy girl. Another one in Glasgow is called the Absent Ear.
Ooh, I love the names of these.
I know. So get this.
The UK.
It's a normal bar. And then you have to book reservations. So if you want to go here, make sure you book them. But when you book them, they send you a password. So it's in your email. And then you walk down these like specific stairs. There's like a red curtain. Open up the curtain. Then there's like almost looking like a Van Gogh. Maybe it is a Van Gogh painting. I don't know. But it's a painting. And it has it's like a side of a face and it has an ear.
Okay.
And the ear has a little button. And that's the button you press to get in.
So creative.
And then they like open up the little slider door and they're like, do you have a passcode? And then you say the passcode and then they let you in.
That's so fun.
Their entire, I want to make a reel about this, so I'll probably share it, but their entire menu is all set. And each time you get something, it's like a production. So Ryan got a drink called I forget what it was, something like incognito or something. So they slip him a note and he opens up the note and it says, this is the most dangerous drink on the menu. Make sure they don't recognize you. So it came with a mustache. So he had to put on the mustache and like act like no one could recognize him.
That's
and
so
otherwise
funny.
they wouldn't give him the drink.
What?
They wouldn't give it to him. And so then they bring it and it's like, everything was.
That's so fun. I feel like I could see you owning a speakeasy one day.
Oh, don't get me started.
Wait, I feel like
this is my dream.
You need to have that happen. We're manifesting that.
This is my dream. Like Ryan and I, every time we go to one, we're like, oh, and we would do this.
Yeah,
we would do this.
Yeah. I'm excited. You're gonna do that.
So much fun.
That sounds so fun.
Those are my top hits. I wish it wasn't always involved drinking. I need to be better about that, but I do like a drink.
For. Yeah, like oh my gosh, when I went to Japan, the group of friends I was with, we were like, we're not gonna drink like every night.
Yeah.
We drank every single night.
Right.
We're like, we're not doing that. Like it's not about that. We're gonna go. We drank every single night.
Yeah, and then like Scotland people.
Yeah, that's like the thing. Whiskey. You went to a whiskey place too, right?
Yeah, a bunch. Yeah. We big whiskey guys over here. Yeah. We went into a bar and didn't even speak to people. Like we would just be sitting by ourselves. And out of nowhere, these drinks come to our table. And we're like, what the heck? And this guy from like across the bar was like, oh yeah, I wanted to buy my American friends a drink. Just heard our accent and was like, that was it. Yeah.
Oh my God. Then I want to travel.
Isn't it so cool? The next bar we went to, sorry, I'm getting like super hyped. The next bar we went to, Ryan and I, it was like lunch. Like it was not a bar. It was like a restaurant. We're sitting at the restaurant. All these girls, they were all from Glasgow. They all it was a birthday party.
Yeah.
And so when we were leaving, I'm like, Ryan, because he was paying the bill. I was like, can you add like a drink onto our bill and like give it to the, like pay it forward type of thing? And the girls were so sweet. They're like, oh my God. Like I'm like, they must not be used to getting drinks bought for them, not by creepy men.
Right. It's just like, oh, this is actually just a friendly thing.
Yeah. And we're like, okay, have a good day. Happy birthday. Bye. And just like, didn't even talk to them. We're just like, enjoy the drink. Bye. You know? So tips out there for men.
Yeah. Never be creepy about it.
Yeah.
Just buy it and leave. Actually, buy me a drink at the bar and then walk away. That's the
slip your number if you really want, right? Maybe your
Yeah.
Instagram so I can like check on it.
Yeah, actually, that's way cooler.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
I don't
like,
want to yell at you at a bar.
hot.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Good dating tip in here too. Yeah, there we go.
Definitely. Okay, well, I think we're getting towards time, so I want to just round this out by any last wisdom, travel. Probably let's talk getting into travel.
Yeah, just like I think, people ask me how to get into the travel industry itself, and what I would do is really just start by researching travel companies, because there's so many more out there than you even realize. Like that one that you just mentioned, they're probably hiring.
Right.
And you got to think, there's not all of the jobs that are the same jobs for any type of company. Travel companies need those people too. Even airlines, if you're not a flight attendant or something, those airlines need social media managers. They need UX designers. So I think whatever like field you're in, just kind of browse around the different travel companies and go that route. And then if you want to go the route that I went, really was like reaching out to travel creators, because these people have huge businesses now and like they need help with things. So I started at like a very like virtual assistant almost type of thing. And if you want to get in that way, that's a great way to do it and then grow with them. Don't reach out to me though, because I do not have any money to hire. Every time I give this tip, people like message me like, I would love to help. And I'm like, oh, I wish one day. Yeah. So all the people who reached out to me, I will get back to you one day when I'm making bank. But it's, just be persistent and like open your mind to all of the different possibilities. And if you want a specific website, I recommended this on Devin's podcast when I was on, but flexjobs.com has a lot of remote specific jobs. I think you have to pay, which is annoying now, to like see the job boards, but it's like $2 or $5. So if you know you're going to like mass apply to places, FlexJobs can be great because it's all work from anywhere and remote jobs. So that's another thing. Maybe it's not a travel company, but you're fully remote and then you can travel. So
I've had clients use this. It's good.
Yeah, it's great. And they have a lot of listings there.
I think there's one called Remote Rocket.
Remote Rocket, I've heard of that one. Remote Woman is also good. Pangian is another one, and We Work Remotely, all great.
People right now are just like writing
job boards. Yeah, so that's like another route to go if you want to travel and work.
Yeah. And last tip, just because my career brain, if you do go the route of reaching out to a content creator or a blogger or something like that, make sure that you're specific.
Yes.
Because I get DMs a lot that say, hey, like I really want to help. Like, are you hiring? I don't know what you do.
What do you do?
I don't know how you could help me. Maybe I'm not even thinking about how you could help me.
Right.
But if you say, hey, I work on websites. I would love to revamp your website for you. Here's what I do. Here's an example of my work.
Or even
I would
like
hire
an
that person tomorrow.
Even an idea they
have.
have. Yeah. Like, oh, I see that you have this. Like, I would love to help you do XYZ because I have... That would be, I've had people send me stuff like that and I'm like, dang, I wish I could hire them, but I'm poor.
Yeah. I'm poor.
But yeah, such a great, be specific, send a portfolio or anything also maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll end it with that.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
That was so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's travel.
Let's travel. Bye.
Bye.
We always do that. Bye.
Thanks for listening to that Onomy podcast. Onomy is a creator-led educational platform that teaches you the things you wished you learned in school so you can thrive in adulthood. Onomy lessons are completely free and they're taught by some of your favorite creators from around the internet. Head to onomy.co to start learning about things like budgeting, investing, taxes, how to thrive in your relationships, how to find your dream job, and so much more. That's onomy.co, onomy.co. See you there.